Are you a leader who finds yourself quietly achieving but rarely seen, wondering why your hard work isn't enough to be recognized? In today's episode, I sit down with UK based coach, TEDx speaker, and event curator Debbie Bryan for an inspiring conversation about helping quietly brilliant women step into greater confidence and visibility. Together, we unpack common challenges women face, like undervaluing their stories, struggling with self promotion, and the fear of public speaking. And we explore how these can hold back even high achieving leaders. You'll hear personal anecdotes from Debbie's journey coaching women through visibility blocks to her own story of resilience after a life altering accident. This episode also dives into the evolving landscape of leadership, authenticity, and the impact of AI on the workplace, while emphasizing the enduring importance of human experience and real connection. Stay tuned for practical insights on building confidence, telling your story authentically, and why being visible matters in your leadership journey. This is the HEARTset Leadership Podcast. We're here on the beat of modern leadership to help you crush your goals without crushing your soul or your teams. Debbie, thank you so much for being here. We're talking all the way across the world. So it's your evening, my morning. My sun keeps streaking through my curtains, lighting me up. So hopefully we figured that out with the curtains. But thank you so much for being here.
I love the light. It's very biblical, So I like to think it's a light shining down on the good people.
So sweet. With my last name, Virtue, it's kind of fun to play on that too.
It's a bit of a pun. I didn't even realize. Let me start the comedy.
Yeah, it's perfect. Well,
Yeah.
before we get into our conversation, why don't you just let our audience know a little bit about you and what you do with your work?
Okay. So my name's Debbie. I'm based in the UK and I help quietly brilliant women. So women who are super successful but pretty invisible. So I help them to become more confident, more visible. I am a TEDx speaker and I'm also organising an event for TEDx here in my hometown. So I've been dealing with quite a lot of people that are at different levels of visibility and yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Love this phrase, quietly brilliant women, because I do feel like the majority of working women are quietly brilliant, even if
Yes.
they're loud.
Well, we're not taught, we're taught to be a little bit humble. I don't know, like maybe not so much in the US, but for women, we are taught, that don't make a fuss, don't brag, be nice and all this sort of stuff. And then what happens is that we work really hard and think that hard work is going to pay off, and it doesn't. I've seen so many times, and I've been a coach for well over 25 years. And for myself, for my own invisible, I used to call myself Debbie from Swindon. When I was trying to speak, I was like, who's going to listen to Debbie from Swindon? Because I felt like a lot of the speakers in the arena I was in at the time with the coaches were men, and you had to be that style. So I really struggled until I discovered like my own voice and my own just be real me. With that side of it. And I see it so many times. So I see people that are amazing at their jobs. I've got a lady she used to work in the EU, getting money and funds, and completely lost her confidence when we had the Brexit because all the jobs disappeared. But she's got 45 years of achieving fundraising for people. And she's just like, oh, I don't do anything. I worked with her and turned her confidence around, and she's absolutely like my most what do they call it? Raving fan. We call it a raving fan in the UK. So she's my most raving fan because she's like, you gave me my life back. I thought I was finished and that nobody'd be interested in me. And the reality is that she had so much knowledge, and it's quite brilliant. Actually came from the TEDx. So when we were looking at for speakers for the TEDx Railway Village, which is June the 19th, when we were looking at speakers for that, the licensee, so I'm the executive producer, so I coach all of the speakers and help them craft their stories, and they're fascinated. But there were some people that had been offered the TED that he felt was honorary in the town and that would bring something to the entertainment, and half of them turned it down.
And I just turned it down.
Half of them turned it down. They had to send me a 1-minute video and they just didn't. And I couldn't understand it because I know people that have spent 3 years applying for TEDs, or 300 times they've applied for TEDs. I flew to Canada for mine. And so they want it more than life. And these people are like, oh, no, thank you. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. No, it's on my bucket list, but not right now. And I'm like, wow, you've got this amazing opportunity. And I thought, well, why are they turning it down? What is it? Am I not helping them enough? And I realized that actually they didn't have the belief that they deserved to be on that stage. So, but where I was teaching speakers, I was like, oh, actually, Deb, you're too far ahead. You
Mm,
need to come back, shift that. I deserve to be on the stage before you go, what are we going to talk about? And so that's where the quietly brilliant women came from, because I
mhm,
started to see that there were all these people who just didn't think they were good enough, or they were ready, or it was, and it happened since the TED, like lots of times of conversation, people like, yeah, I'd love to do it, but in 10 years. No, no,
mhm,
nothing's going to change in 10 years,
mhm.
you know?
Was that 50% that turned down the TED Talks? Do you happen to know how many were female?
Most of the females, most of the men said yes, and most
Mhm,
of the females, I had to either talk them into it, or they just never submitted a video. They just didn't get around to it.
mhm,
And then they wanted to talk about their business. So for TEDx, it's not about your business, it's about the idea that they're sharing. And they had phenomenal amounts of skills,
mhm,
but still tried to justify their business or what other people had done, and couldn't focus on themselves. It's so interesting. I love it. I love that part of it, of evolving the story. So to give you an example, I've got a lady who runs a dance studio here in Swindon. She used to be a choreographer in London, and she runs this massive dance studio. Actually, the venue where we're going is the dance studio where we're having the thing. And when I talked to her, one of her stories, just one of her stories, was that someone came to her and said, we want to do this jazz festival. And so she was like, okay. And it was for, I think it was like 14, 28-year olds. Don't quote me on that bit, right? But it was an age group. And so they put this on, and they put it maybe on social media, and they were sitting there on the day, and nobody had applied. Like
mhm,
literally nobody had applied. And her and this other dance instructor were there, and they went outside the studio, and when they opened the doors, the queue was
mhm,
around the building and down the street. All these people had come together to do this dance festival. So that started, and our theme for the TED Talk is lines of connection,
mm,
because it's Railway Village and stuff like that. So where that started is that now that festival runs every year. 5,000 people come into that festival from all around the world, like literally. And that connection of like bringing all those different people together, to me, is the most amazing thing. And she was like, I've got lots of stories, but to get her talk down to just that, without going, this is how I started, this is what I did, this is when I got my first ballot. I'm like, you've got 12 minutes, honey, 12 minutes. You've got to do all that background, show some
yep,
pictures to get that. And so once we got it to that, then she's super excited. And then
mhm,
she's like, oh my God, I can't wait to do this. And I'm thinking of, maybe I'll bring a dancer from behind me, or maybe I'll have some pictures. Or it was just kind of going, what's your story? It doesn't have to be your whole story, but to me, I just think that's phenomenal that you can start with an idea, all of a sudden all these people are on, and then it's a worldwide thing that happens every year. And people are flying from Australia and New Zealand and the States and Canada and India and so many different places out of something that started from nothing.
mhm,
And it was just a bit of fun idea type thing. And so she literally, that level of success, and she kind of attributes to somebody else as no big deal. And that's it, quietly brilliant. But I work with a lot of like women in leadership, in corporates. They're exactly the same, that aren't wanting to go for that job, go for that role, go for the board, go for the manager's role, go for the leading roles, because they don't think that they're good enough, or they're not heard, or they just come in, do their job amazingly, cause no trouble. I've done this. I worked in a call center when my children were young, customer services, went in, did my job, didn't need anyone to escalate my calls. I could do all of it myself, and walked back out the door to go and do the school run. And my team leader never spoke to me, because
mm.
he didn't need to. So it was just, she can do the job, she gets on with it. So therefore, the big troublemakers were the ones that were all on team development. They were all on having mentors and having extra training, because it was the guys who normally, it was the troublemakers, but it was the people who weren't as good as me who were getting all the fuss. And I
Yep.
think most women have been in that situation.
I can't agree more. I would love to respond to a few things you said. One is that this idea of getting confident in order to share your story, speak in public, right? I think the top statistics are 75% of people in the world are fearful of public speaking. So we could talk about that and why that is. But what I find too in my coaching practice with leaders and high executive level, especially women, I do have some men that struggle with this as well. So there's a lot of times they worry about self promotion. They worry about
Mhm.
how will I come across? They also worry about Nobody cares about my story, right? Let's just get to work and do the work. And one of the philosophies of HeartSet Studio, what we're going to be weaving into this conversation is that mindset is all about you and how you show up for yourself, right? Getting yourself in the right
100%.
mindset. And then this concept of HeartSet is how you show up for others. And one thing I've seen breakthroughs with my clients a lot of times is when they can realize people want to hear their story. I was a
Yes.
facilitator for the Google I Am Remarkable program where you get people strangers together typically. Sometimes teams do it, but I did it all virtually. People around the world would get on and talk about their vulnerability and talk about their story and talk about how do you build confidence in the workplace. And a big part of it was everyone else in the session wanted to hear everyone else's stories. And for
Yes.
someone to show up, be vulnerable and hear, oh, they actually want to hear my story. It's a gift to them to tell the story. That I find can create so much breakthrough when people really realize that deep down that it's actually a gift you're offering others. And as women, we're so good at taking care of other people that I do believe that when we put that mindset on of, I'm going to show up like TED Talks. How many people are Googling TED Talks all the time are like, oh, you have a TED
Oh,
Talk? I want to
God.
go, I want to go listen. I want to go hear it. Nobody's saying, oh, that person's so boisterous.
No, they
Right?
don't. But I think that, that's when my speaking changed from I I did have this very not corporate, but I was in with a big male coach, and it was a very male environment, and it was very money, 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 and how you can do this and how you can do that. And so every time I tried to speak there, I was just like, didn't feel like I had the authority. So one of the speakers was an NLP master. So I thought, oh, if I go and get that, then it'll all fall into place for me. So I did the NLP master in the lockdown, and then did it again because it didn't fall into place for me. So the masters, I was like, okay, an online course didn't work for me. I need to go into one that's a cohort. So I spent like £2,000 to do it again, and it still didn't. And when I realized that I was already doing all the stuff for the NLP, but a bit like Tony Robbins, I was doing it in a normal language and not an NLP language. When I was listening to him, I was like, he's just doing NLP, but he's doing a language that people could understand. And then I kind of just got to a point where I was like, I feel like this environment is not the right environment for me, but I'd kind of lost myself a little bit in this inauthentic person of we all sounded like this coach. We all sounded like him. And it's still happening. And so I'm not going to name any names, but I see people working with him. He was such a strong character. You kind of ended up almost like a cult emulating him. And so I came away and I was just like, I didn't really know where I was going, but I just knew that wasn't right for me. And that was when I learned about masculine and feminine energy. I didn't even know any of that stuff. And I was like, I just thought it was, go to work, go hard. Afterwards, I realized I was quite cruel to myself. I was brilliant for my clients, but actually was cruel to myself, and I was very comfortable living in chaos, the chaos of like, and I don't know, I meet a lot of people that's similar to this really is I didn't think it was chaos. I thought it was just, going all in. And I used to crave holidays and crave like exotic stuff. And I realized afterwards that I was soothing myself with these expensive holidays and we've gone out for nice meals and taking the family out, but then also putting pressure on myself to have to go and earn the money for these expensive holidays. And I was just in this cycle that I would constantly be going, oh, I need to book a holiday. And then afterwards, when I came away from it, I was like, I went for a process, which is a little bit spiritual. So probably won't go into that now. But it was, once I'd come out of it, I couldn't go back. I didn't know how to go back. So then I didn't know how to start stuff. So I kind of booked myself onto this bike ride. So I had a prediction after a car accident 16 years ago next month that at the age of 55, I would be in a wheelchair. So I had already relearned to walk, couldn't walk for 6 months. And then, 2 years later, they tell me that I'm going to be in a wheelchair at 55 years old. So I just think, well, I'm going to fight with that. I'm not accepting that answer. That's not going to happen to me. And my friend said to me, do you want to do this bike ride? So I thought, yeah, let's just do it. And I signed up to go cycle around India, 370 kilometers around India, because I just thought, well, let's use them before we lose them. If I'm going to be in a wheelchair now, I need to have an adventure like right now. And so then I started training for that. And then people were interested in that. So I started talking about the accident. If you watch my TED, it kind of is like talking about this car accident where I should have been dead, saved my own life by taking 2 steps. And then the journey after that. And then this bike ride that terrified me, like literally terrified me, because I was just thought I could only cycle like 5 miles when I started and I had to do 370 kilometers, about 200 25 miles in 5 days. In 5 days. So my local radio station asked me to come on, and I talked about that. And then they were like, somebody else said, "Oh, do you want to come on my podcast? I really like that story." And it kind of grew. And I realized that actually what was happening is I was just talking about real things that I thought were perfectly normal. I thought I just did what anybody else would do, that everybody would argue with their doctors, argue with their surgeons. On the first time that they came to me in the hospital and said, we can operate on you, but you're not going to be able to walk on your leg. And I just said, you have to be joking. That's just the wrong answer. And 4 times they came back and gave me a different solution. And then I couldn't stand on my leg for 6 months. And then obviously for them to say, actually, you're going to be in a wheelchair. And I was like, no way after I've done all this fighting, are you going to write me off? And I just thought everybody would react like that. But it turns out that people don't necessarily. More normal, the normal thing is to accept what the doctor says the first time. And I don't know why I didn't. And also for the wheelchairs to come home and build a ramp and wait for the wheelchair. And I was just like, that's not happening to me. So when I started to talk about that, people then started to come to me with their stories, and they had amazing stories. I literally have a client that was here today who I only started working with last year, but she told me her story and so I set up a podcast, and it was like, whatever it takes when life gives you lemons. And I had all these stories that people were telling me about domestic abuse or their child dying and how they built a career or different stuff. And they were all quite hard, I suppose, quite hard. And I come out of this bang, 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 10 million in half an hour world. And all these people are doing it. And actually, I've probably been on like 50, 60 podcasts now, and people are just interested in that. And that was a real learning curve. I've been a couple of books and co-author books and stuff like that. And this story is just, it inspires people. And so I got to the stage of going, okay, maybe I have something here. Maybe if I just be the real me, then people are more interested than when I'm trying to pretend to be somebody else. And that's kind of where I started to, every time something happened, I was still like, gosh, Debbie from Swindon who used to blush and stutter and go bright red, even like at my age, still blushing, like when does that stop? Now you're suddenly going to go and stand on the TED stage or go and speak at the House of Lords, or just mind blowing things that happened when you become the real you. And I think your audience know when you're telling the truth. They know when we're cave people, aren't we? We're designed within 7 seconds to know whether you're going to kill us or be our friend deep down. And so that's one of the things that I love about the Quietly Brilliant Women is that I'm not asking them to be something different. I'm just asking them to understand the brilliance and the power they already have and actually own that, actually own it, because I find that people are waiting to become the person that they think they need to be. And they already are. They just don't see it. And that's kind of that confidence, I suppose. Confidence is such a hard word in coaching, I think, because how do you measure confidence? How do you say, right, I'm a confidence coach. I used to know a confidence coach, and he's the least confident person I've ever met. It was just like, you're not confident. How are you going to teach me? And it obviously came from there, of him not being confident and feeling like he was further along. And actually, I coached him to go onto video, and he was just like, he was brilliant, actually. I was just like, so everyone's like, fake it till you make it. We've got social media telling us that everyone's perfect and that they're doing all this stuff. I cycled around the Cotswolds here in see-through shorts that turned out to be underwear as opposed to cycling shorts, because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to change gears, honestly, for months. I bought this pair of, my friend said, you have to have 10 pairs of shorts to go cycling. You have some in your bag and you have all these little bags for each day. She's like, she's so super organized. I was like, okay. And so I bought these, and she said to me, Deb, all you've got to worry about is the padding. So they're padded, the shorts, in an area that sits on the saddle. So she said, all you need to worry about is that. She said, so as long as you've got the padding, doesn't matter what they look like. I look like a pair of sausages, really. And I went onto Amazon and ordered these padded cycle shorts. I cycled to her house and she said, oh, she said, they're a little bit thin, aren't they? And I said, oh, they look fine. They look fine to me. Pulled my t-shirt down. I checked them in the mirror, obviously. She said, oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about them. She said, I can kind of see your tattoo. I have a tattoo at the base of my spine in a place where no one can see it. That's the whole point of it. So anyway, I come home, looked at them. They look fine. So I carried on in these shorts for a couple of months, like cycling around the Cotswolds, 50 miles, whatever, until I then ordered the big pack to go to India in November. So I ordered 10 pairs and they are mesh, just like a mesh.
Talk about being yourself, Debbie.
Yeah. So I was just like, this is And then I go to Amazon and realize that they have cycling shorts that you wear because you don't wear underwear with them, and then underwear cycling shorts. So I've been cycling in my underwear for absolutely months. And that's just like, I text my friend and I said to her, I've sorted out the shorts. And she said, really? And I said, underwear. She went, that figures. That explains it. But I will tell you that on my TED talk. I will go on stage and say, look at me, I'm just a normal person. I can make mistakes. I'm not a professional cyclist. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know how to do the kit. Someone had to show me how to change gear
Mhm,
because instead of like there's gears on both handlebars and I just used one. I
mhm,
didn't use the other. So I just have 7 instead of 21. So I think, when I'm talking about something that's happened in my real life,
mm,
and a tip if you're speaking, if you're talking about something that happened in real life, if you screw it up, no one else knows. No one else knows. So you can go onto a stage and talk about in a framework so that obviously you can remember what you're talking about. But if a little bit goes wrong, the audience don't know because they don't know your life. And so it takes away some of the nerves for
yeah.
speaking.
There's so
But
many
that's
places this shows up in the workplace, isn't there? I work a lot with
yeah.
people that are in career transition as well, and they're trying to
Mhm.
go for interviews or talk to contacts about what they wanna do, and that contrived feeling of scripting something versus
Yeah.
preparing it, like you said, in a framework and being able to deliver your authentic story, and it's
Yeah.
your story, it's
I
not
have a
something AI made up for you. It's like,
oh
this
my
really
gosh.
happened, right?
Good somebody was saying to me, um, just yesterday that she'd interviewed somebody and she was like, if I wasn't on a Zoom looking at this person face to face, she said the answers were textbook.
Mm,
For a
yeah.
care provider. So our care provider for my mum. She said they were textbook. And I
Mhm.
said, but show now, they can just be reading it off the screen. The
Yes.
AI can listen in and give you the answers. There's an app that does that. And she was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know. So
Scary.
the funny thing is although this person gave the perfect answers, if you go back to us being cave person, right, she doesn't trust those answers. She knows there's something wrong there.
Yep.
Actually, instead of it impressing, it's caused a mistrust.
Yeah, I think, we were talking about AI earlier when we were talking about our personal lives too off this call. And there's some places where it can be so powerful to solve real
Mm,
human problems. And then these places like interviewing, telling your story, even resume writing, there's so many problems that can come with if you have AI do it for you. Like someone else is going to be doing it too. And then the recruiter sees two identical resumes. Guess what? You're not getting an
easy.
interview.
Notice because I do use AI quite a lot, so, like copywriting and stuff like that. But then I
Hmm.
change it, and I'm
Same. Yeah.
like the fact that
Brainstorming.
you can go, make it sound like Cody Sanchez, make it sound like this person, and then I get that like the power bit into it, and then I'll take it over myself. But actually, I had a Facebook post that come up this morning. I'm going to own up to this because a year ago it was like, this is what I'm going to do in 2025, and it's got all the dashes and it's got all the AI words that now are glaringly obvious. But I had no idea back
Yes.
then. Actually, none of what I was going to do happened in 2025. I had a very medical year, spending a lot of time with my family in various hospitals. And I looked at it and I thought, I should just post that and go, "Do you know what? None of this happened. The reality is like I was going to travel and speak on stages and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So, but I was like, the AI there was probably a disconnect for my clients.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't sound like me. So they're like, well, that's not, and people now are very quick to go, that's AI, that's not you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and there is that disconnection. What we were
Mhm.
joking about was carers. So at
Mhm.
the moment we're struggling to get care of like for my mum and we were talking about when we're older and we've got care needs and stuff that perhaps that's when a robot would be really helpful for us, come and look after us and the staffing crisis in care would go. So I think we've solved the problem. We just need to get some robots.
Yeah, that's where we should funnel robots, not these Olympic events
No.
that they're doing.
Just I
Care.
can't wait. We're getting off the subject, but I read this thing, that we're all gonna have um like a robot called Bobby that does the cooking and the cleaning
Mhm.
and the shopping and all of those things. So I can't wait that somebody else is going to do that because my cleaner is very unreliable. She's lovely, but she's very unreliable.
Mhm.
But then I think, what about on the day when you say you're going to give up something? So you get to Monday morning, you're right, right, Bobby, I'm not having wine anymore. I'm not having chocolate, or I'm not eating carbs anymore. And at 5 o'clock, you've had a bad day and having a row with the robot. Going, I know I said that, but I didn't mean it. And I even go one step further to think, well, what if you keep some cash and you sneak to the shop and then Bobby's got his friends outside the shop, they're not letting you in.
That's so funny. It's like
So,
you need a safe word or something, right? Yeah.
yeah, I will be arguing and going, I know I said that this morning, but
Yes.
I don't mean that now. Okay.
Sounds like my
Instead.
daughter's birth story because I was really determined not to use painkillers. And so my husband and the nurse knew our safe word that we had come up with. If I really want it, I would say that phrase. And so at one point in labor, I was like, give me the drugs. I really need it. This is terrible. And so um, the the nurse just kind of looks at me. She didn't really react. She was great.
Like,
And
what, say
my
the magic
husband's
word
like,
type thing.
what do you need? And so I said it, and he kind of goes, are you saying the safe word? He didn't remind me what it was. And then
Ah,
I just kept going. And so they never gave it to me. Delivery
oh,
happened 30 minutes later. It was perfect because if I had done it at that point, it would slow everything down. At, it's one of those things, right? Like setting up these structures. Yeah, that just reminded me of that.
yeah.
Oh, that was
It
such hard time.
so the thing is, so that brings me nicely onto the where people are worried that AI are gonna take their jobs, they're not going to, because you're not gonna get AI speakers. People are already rebelling against that.
Mm.
But where you're going to stand out is to stand up and be the person that's heard, the
Yeah, to
person that's
be
visible.
authentic.
That's where you're gonna yeah, to be authentic,
Yes.
to be yourself, to stand up. So and when I'm talking about quietly brilliant women, these are already women who achieve it, they probably do everything. They do everything in the office. A person that manages everybody and organizes everything and fixes every problem and just gets on with it. And then somebody else who's a little bit rubbish comes in and gets promoted or gets the award or gets the client or gets because they've been more visible and they've been more noisy and they've told people. Like, nobody loves a best kept secret. That a best kept secret doesn't, you don't win the day.
No
You just
secret.
stand
Yep.
on the sidelines and go, what they said, build and it would happen. Or I thought they said, just be brilliant and work really hard and all the riches are coming. It doesn't.
Yep.
It sadly doesn't. And so that's kind of my mission in 2026 is to go and unveil all these quietly brilliant women and show them up, whether they want to be on a stage, whether they want to speak up in a boardroom,
Mm.
or just be confident enough to speak up in a meeting and have an opinion and not get ignored.
I love it. So, a little bit more on the AI really quick. I want to bring up a couple trends I'm seeing as well for leaders because we're talking mostly about leadership on this.
Mm.
One is that there are apps now that will prompt you of how to coach your team members too, and it'll give you exactly the script and what to say to them. And while I think there is a lot of power behind having that support tool to just kind of get you in the frame of mind or remind you of some phrasing that you could use. This is another cautionary tale, right? Same with like preparing your TED talk. You don't want to have AI script it. It's going to make things up. It's going to bring in. So having that power of, first of all, trying things, because what I also don't want people to do is just not try. Like people that are already scared to step out of their comfort zone, like the fake it till you
100%.
make it, right, is there for a reason because a lot of people just overthink it and then they say no to a TED talk. That just blows my mind.
I
So
know.
it's like,
I
yeah,
couldn't believe it.
put yourself out there and use these tools to help you, especially if you're a new up and coming leader, like having those tools, having a lot of places to gain the knowledge. But then the practice is why coaching is so powerful too, right? Because it's a safe
Mm.
space to practice in. My Chat GPT, that's his name. I call him Chad. He's great. He's so sweet, so
I
nice,
know.
very, very helpful, but it's not a human with a heart and soul. It's not someone that can give me authentic feedback and I can see their body language reaction. And it sometimes placates us, right? Because it's a
Yeah.
tool made by
Could be. So yeah, sometimes it's too nice. I have a so my mum's got dementia, so I have a dementia chat with them and I go, this is what's happening and this is what the symptoms are. And it goes, oh Deb, you've had such a hard day. And do you want to and I'm like, wow, why are you talking to me like you're my only friend? You are a machine. But
Mm,
it's been really helpful to help like what to do in the hospital, what
mm,
we're entitled to, what we should do, what the symptoms mean, even down to doing like a urine test of like, I don't understand what this is. And it's like, show me the picture. And so that's been like supremely helpful. I think where it doesn't help, I mean, there's a study that's been done on students that wrote with AI and wrote without AI, and the memory of what is coming out in AI, they don't remember because it's not processed. You haven't written it down yourself. So I think, you've got to play with it. You've got to play with it and say, make it sound like me. If you've got, I'm quite lucky. I have a presence online, so it can go and say, oh, okay, this is what you sound like. This is how you speak. I can go make it be like Cody Sanchez, but sometimes I just go, answer me in a no fluff, no BS answer.
mhm.
And it
Yep.
goes, okay, then, if that's what you want. And so then you get something that is not quite so, yay, 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 cheerleader. It's like, this is the problem. This is what you do wrong. This is your weak spots, and this is what you do. You flit around too much. Or you want to work with leaders, and you're showing up as a leader. So
Mhm.
it kind of like has a filter. Although there's one called Monday that is like sarcasm central. Like if you put something into Monday, it's like, well, you're a wet lettuce that keeps asking me what to do. Who do you think I am? Your therapist. And so
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of you arguing with well, not arguing, well, maybe arguing, going back to the doctor 4 times, like, you gave yourself permission to push back on humans
I
too.
have no idea what
We've
happened.
gotta
I
yeah, we've gotta
honestly,
do that with AI as well, so
yeah, you
yeah.
have to go. That's not so for me. I don't believe that no means no. They made me take that off my title. I
I
don't
know what
believe
you
that no
mean.
means no. It just means that you're asking the wrong person. So actually,
Yeah.
yes. So if you can follow that through, otherwise no means no
Yes.
gets people in a lot of trouble. But I don't. I just don't believe that no means no. If I think that there's a yes answer, then I will just keep asking until I find it. I will just keep searching until I find it. So, for example, I was by the side of the road. This car was at control coming towards me on a double lane, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to die and this is going to hurt. And then I was like, no, 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 I'm not going. I'm not going. I can't leave my children. And I took these two random steps that literally saved my life. So when I got to the hospital, I didn't have loads of blood. I had a broken nail. I just knew I couldn't stand on my leg. And my husband was like, and I was like, I can't. It's probably bruised. So I wasn't even in the mindset of
Mhm.
I've got a broken leg. So I remember saying to my kids, it's just bruised. And they're like, no, mum's definitely broken. It's huge by this stage. So then they take me up to the ward, go, we'll operate in the morning. So I'm thinking, okay, I've got a broken leg. I didn't know what a broken leg was. I thought you break a leg, you get a cast, everyone scribbles on it, and 6 weeks later you go back to your life. So when they came to me in the morning and said, we can't operate, it's too swollen. And I had a hairdressing salon in a gym at the time. Can't operate, it's too swollen. And we will operate, but you're going to lose the use of your leg. And I was like, what? I'm a hairdresser. I have a hairdressing salon in a gym. Am I going to be able to do my job? And they were like, no, you won't be able to bend your leg. It
Mm.
would just be straight. So I was like, no. So then I just said, no, I was like, no, 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 you're not listening to me. I need to be able to do my job. I need to be able to pay my bills. I need to be able to pay my staff. And I had no idea that at that stage they would go, okay, and walk away. And then they would come back and say, right, we can do this. And I was like, am I going to be able to do my job? I was terrified I was going to lose my business. Am I going to be able to stand up? And they would go, no. So I was like, okay, that's like, you're just not listening to me. Just don't, that cannot be the right answer.
Mhm.
And so 4 times, on the fourth time, they were like, we're going to do this, and we're going to take some bone out of your hip, and we're going to rebuild it, and we'll go for the deep bone. And I was like, I'm not a soft boiled egg, just do that. And then I woke up a day later with um, 2 plates and 22 screws in my leg and a cage. And I was like, okay, this is not going to be 6 weeks. It
Mm.
might be 8 weeks. So it just was that can't be the right answer.
Yep. Well,
I
you're
kind of,
you're describing too, so that leadership trends, being authentic, being real, people are not gonna come to you for knowledge anymore as a leader because they can go to an AI, they can go and find that knowledge even easier now. And that part is not what people need from leaders, right? They need authentic, transparent leaders that will show up and be human with you and will help you get through the day and help you get through your work.
they need
And
experience.
yeah.
They need experience. So AI works if you know what questions to go and ask, right? Or if you know how to go, tell me the questions I need to be asked. Like, is there's a whole process.
You need
And
to
then
have
how do you
critical
know?
thinking.
Yeah. First of all, you have to be quite critical thinking to try and even get anywhere near the level of experience that you're going to get the outcome, because you still can, go down rabbit holes and keep hitting a
Mhm,
wall. But
mhm.
the other is like, where's the experience to implement that to other human beings? Because I see, what did I send to my son the other day? Something stupid. All these alligators on a football pitch, American football, right? All these alligators in water, swamped. And I was like really excited that I'd seen this because I'd seen something about rainfall. And he's like, Mum, that's AI. And I was like, is it? So I had to like genuinely thought it was real. I was quite excited about it. And he's like, that is AI. Are you just so then I'm like, okay, everything that comes on now, I'm like, is that AI? Is that real? Is that not
You're so
real?
on
But
trend
the
too,
question's
Debbie.
there.
There's all those
I know,
reels where kids are showing and
I
parents
know.
are showing each other, and they're like, "That's AI,
I,
that's AI."
thing is, I've been in the coaching world for a long time. I started in a course at corporate coaching, helping to train, worked in a travel company, and had home working, 50 people working for me at home before we had video phones, before we had any cameras. In fact, we were horrified when they said they were cameras because most people worked in the pajamas. Even then, I managed this team that sold America and the Caribbean and sold like £1 million every month. And that was very much phoning up, talking. They're all isolated and stuff like that. So you have to have a level of experience. But what unfortunately happens is if you are in the coaching world, is that the algorithms on the social media send you every other coach who tells you that if you haven't made 10 million by the time you've made your first cup of tea in the morning, you're a failure. But if you give them £10,000, they'll help you do it. And that is constant noise to the point where I'm like, I don't really enjoy, say, Facebook or Meta. So I went to TikTok because I was like, well, this is just fun. It's bits of music and it's comedy. But now that's trying to sell to me as well. And for people who, those people, for people who are in leadership or in wanting some help and some guidance, okay, how do you work out who is real and who is not? Where's the gut feeling? Because I do know that there are people out there, say, for example, teaching property, but they're living in a rented house, or there's relationship coaches out there that are getting divorced. There's that authenticity of like, this is me. I work 3 days a week and I do the school run and I've made 5 million this year and then I see them crying on another post and going, oh, this is the worst year of my life. And this happened, and I'm having a nervous breakdown. I'm like, somehow I've got very in tune with my energy. And when I see them on the screen, I'm just like, I can't bear to look at it. I think just because I've really struggled with that side of like family life this year, I've got very like, I can't explain it really, but I can see when the energy is fake. I can see when the energy that they're coming across is very desperate and very needy. And so I'm lucky. The only way that you're going to know if the leadership coach is for you is to speak to them.
Yes, one-on-one. Ooh, good segue. This is so good because you have a gift for the audience too of your own time.
I do that consciously, but I do have a gift. I do have a gift, which is a diamond discovery call. So this could be an audit on your visibility. This could be something that you're wanting to do. Maybe you want to write a book, or you want to be able to go to a networking thing and not feel sick when you have to do your minute. So we will do a diamond discovery call, which is free to anybody on here, 15 to 20 minutes. It's no obligation. And we'll look at where you can show up without dancing on TikTok and without being inauthentic. So I want somebody to stand on the stage and feel so comfortable in their own skin and their own shoes that confidence oozes through.
Love it.
And that's the only way you're going to do it.
Thank you for offering that in your time. So we'll have that at heartsetstudio.com/podcast in the show notes, which will be linked below or above wherever you're listening in the description, and there will be a link. Debbie, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here and spending time with me and sharing your authentic self and your story. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I love that you've got that sunniness and I'm in the pitch black here. So we're like two ends of the spectrum, but both really on the same page. So yeah, just thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for joining today's conversation. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to leave us a 5-star review in support. If you would like to take this conversation further and continue strengthening your leadership heart set, check out HEARTsetStudio.com and subscribe to our Heartwire newsletter. HEARTset Studio is also available to connect on your leadership development goals and initiatives for you and the other leaders in your organization. Contact us today through the website. And most importantly, thank you so much for all you do for the other humans in your life. We know that you show up with heart time and again, and it is most appreciated.